Palazzo Ducale. Welcome to the Palace of the Lord Montefeltro. The Ducal Palace is a Renaissance building in the Italian city of Urbino. One of the most important monuments in Italy, it is listed as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. The integration of public and private in the organization of the Urbino Palace reveals as much about Federico's unique approach to governance as his interest in history and innovative architecture. With the exception of the private apartments and the Duchess wing, to which only Federico held the keys, Urbino citizens enjoyed a liberal access to the ducal palace in common for his time. In this picture, names colored in black refer to private places of the duke, and the names colored in red refer to public place open to the other citizens as well. Like a valve, the studiolo was positioned between the public and private zones of the palace, more precisely between the duke's bedchambers and the Sala di Nunze or council chamber. Time Federico was born. 2 years after he was born, he was legitimatized by Pope Martin V, with the consent of Guidantonia's wife. The reason why he was able to become a lord, instead of any other sons of Guidantonio, was because his half-brother Odantonio da Montefeltro was assassinated in conspiracy, a plot which he never attended. Before he lived the life of the Lord of Urbino and political figure, his life was characterized by wars and battles. Federico was one of the few condottieri, which means military-free companies contracted by Italian city-states and papacy to fight for wars. In 1450, he was hired by the Duke of Milan. In 1451, he accepted a proposal from King of Naples to fight against Florence. And in 1464, he was called by Pope Paul II for a battle against pagans. His army experience later affects the kinds of artifacts displayed in the studiolo, such as swords and armors that illustrate his character of justice. However, despite his military life, Federico, nicknamed the Light of Italy, is a landmark figure in the history of Italian Renaissance for his contributions to enlightened culture. He imposed justice and stability by emphasizing the principles of humanist education in his state. He funded many artists and writers, including the early training of the young painter Raphael. The contents of studioli were pretty standard. They were designed to hold and display the owner's collections, antiquities, books, nature curiosities like coral and semi-precious stones, and scholarly stuff. However, the objects illustrated in Federico's studiolo were more about wonder and fantastic objects. Because he had achieved his ducal position as a mercenary soldier, it seems that he has some pressure to justify his position by providing humanistic patronage by adopting all the Renaissance values and virtues. Therefore, the studiolo was a place for Federico to show off his erudition and feats. He incorporated trompe-l'oeil technique. Trompe-l'oeil is an art technique that uses realistic imagery to create the optical illusion that depicted objects exist in 3 dimensions. The ceiling is covered with golden ducal businesses. The brilliant colors and the continuous references between the real and fantastic architecture had to create in the viewer an effect of great wonder. Take a moment to observe surroundings before we go over the details of the studiolo. In addition to its terracotta tilted floor and gilt ceiling, the studiolo is composed of 2 distinct zones, the polychromatic portraits of 28 illustrious men and the honey-tone intarsia paneling below. In turn, the portraits are arranged in 2 tiers of 14, and the intarsia is divided into 3 levels, with architectural niche and cabinets, benches set on a low platform, and the dado between. Catered text encircles the room. Federico da Montefeltro, Duke of Urbino, Count of San Leo and Durante, Captain General of the very stern King of Sicily, and Gonfalonier of the Holy Roman Church, 1476. Beginning in the northwest corner directly opposite to the near Sala di Nunze, this text gives us a straightforward point of orientation, a place to catch hold amid the overwhelming abundance of images. Following the path of text around the chamber, we are drawn ineluctably towards the room's center. Completing a full rotation at dedicatory date, our gaze might naturally descend to the colorful portraits below, each featuring an illustrious scholar seated in an architectural setting. In 1631, Cardinal Antonio Barberini moved into the palazzo as papal legate, when the church took Urbino on the death of Federico's great-great-grandson Francesco Maria II. The Berini left the unfashionable wood panels but took the painted ones. Today, 14 are back in the room, 14 in the Louvre. In the north wall were ancient thinkers and doctors of the church. In the upper register, Plato, Aristotle, Ptolemy both used, and in the lower, St. Gregory, St. Jerome, St. Ambrogio, Augustine. Each figures represent a variety of assets that Federico wanted to have. In the east wall of writers and philosophers, ancient and medieval Old Testament characters were placed. In the upper register, Cicero, Seneca, Homer, and Virgil, and in the lower, Moses, Solomon, St. Thomas Aquinas, and Duns Scotus, scholars and religious figures. On the top were Euclid, Vittorino da Feltre, Solon, Bartolo da Sesoferato. On the bottom were Pius II, Joan Bessarion, Albert the Great, and Sixtus IV. The west wall was occupied half of the window and half of 4 portraits of 2 files, as usual, from top to bottom, from left to right. They could see Hippocrates, Pietro di Bano, Dante Alighieri, and Francesco Petrarca. On bottom part of the wall, with remarkable veracity, the intarsia depicts select books, scientific and musical instruments, armor and weaponry, family crests of the Montefeltro, and the numerous honors bestowed on Federico during his military and political career. Basically, Montefeltro attempted to put every aspect of his life on the wall, from his accomplishments to announcement of his future. In Federico da Montefeltro's Studiolo, then, we can see all the components of the ideal Renaissance man. On the bottom part of the wall, there are 4 miniaturized portraits drawn, other than 28 illustrious men, at the top part of the wall. 4 miniaturized human figures depict 3 theological virtues, which are hope, faith, and charity, each located at each walls of the Studiolo. Theological virtues refer to the character qualities associated with salvation resulting from the grace of God, which enlightens human mind. The last miniaturized figure is Federico himself, in an attempt to equivocate himself to 3 virtues to elevate his status. Investigation, the author Luciano Charles claims that although 4 cardinal virtues, which are prudence, justice, temperance, and courage, are not personified on the walls, we may try to identify them with objects displayed on the wall. The author asserts that the sword located at the bottom corner of the north wall indicates justice, armor at the northeast corner means fortitude, hourglass illustrates temperance, and the squirrel in the east wall indicates prudence. Other values, trivium and quadrivium, are also illustrated through objects drawn on the wall. Trivium refers to grammar, rhetoric logic, which gives the owner of intellectual character. Quadrivium refers to arithmetic, geometry, music, and astronomy, which are emphasis on mathematics and engineering. There is emphasis on mathematics and engineering because Federico considered geometry the most important of the liberal arts, as well as the very foundation of architecture. Though there are several engineers' tools of measurement, an hourglass measured on equal hour, and so on, as well as an armoury spear depicting the Ptolemaic universe. The Studiolo contains many musical instruments in various cabinets, both as emblems of mathematical truth in music and as symbols of Federico's patronage of music and musicians. The detail of the objects on the wall shows specific information, such as the name of the Florentine organ maker Giovanni Castellano. Other cabinets refer to Federico's merit as a leader and a soldier. The content of this cabinet seems to show his successful career as a soldier. One cabinet opens to reveal his parrot helmet, shin guards, and a mace, as if the Duke had just come in and tossed the stuff in his cubby. The jeweled garter, whose shadow is rendered in dark wood, was perhaps the most important symbol of the all, a reference to Federico's admission into the Order of the Garter, the highest English chivalry honor. An exploding grenade represents a modern among 15th century weapons, and as such is a symbol of preparedness and effectiveness of Duke's artillery in case of enemy attack. Along the main wall, 2 such emblems are symmetrically repeated. At the center, an ostrich holding a spear in its beak appears. The oldest of the emblems used by the Federico family, it had belonged to his grandfather, Count Antonio, on whose tomb it appears, and it was evidently meant as a symbol of bearers' resistance to adversity. Flanking it is an army surrounded by a circle of mud with motto Non mai, which means never, a well-known symbol of innocence and purity suggested by the immaculate whiteness of this animal, which was thought to prefer death rather than soil its coats. For Federico, who adopted this emblem quite early, it probably hinted at his innocence in the assassination of his half-brother Antonio, an indication of his determination to be honest Duke of Urbino. Although many studiolo in the Renaissance were typical in terms of its content, that of Federico was different. It was a place that tells the story of his life and character he wanted to be identified with.